worried about it.
But they're celebrating a grandson's birthday.
Oh, well, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
They can celebrate it right
But
here.
I think they're going to come see you in Newport.
Oh,
That's what
good.
they told me.
Good, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I'm going to call my husband, excuse me, but I think he's probably doing something that he thinks is going to help us. I bet you're right.
He might be sitting in the lobby because he pointed us to the right direction.
Oh.
Yeah, he's guiding traffic.
He is.
Yes, he's doing a very, very good job of it
Follow
too.
the signs. Follow the signs.
Okay, so I'm going to try and ask him to bring up some little brochures that we have for you. So let's see if this works.
Gordon and Shirley.
Do you all know Chuck Hurlman from Tillamook? I've got a lot of things
Sounds
here.
familiar.
He's one of the county commissioners there.
Okay, yeah, I've heard you speak before.
He is so knowledgeable about the fisheries. Oh my goodness. Just amazing. Okay, now, let's see.
Does that sound like Gordon down there?
You're asking me? You got 2 hearing aids and I can't
Good. Hi, Shirley, Wendy. Are you coming? Okay, see you in a little bit. It starts at 5 and we're here. 5 to 6. 5 to 6. Yeah.
Tell her she missed the $500 duty.
Well, just, can you come late? Okay. Okay, all right. No problem. Bye.
Yeah, in fact, a friend of mine, David Miller, owns radio stations here in town. He was on that fish thing with the government trying to get something going here.
Hi, come on up and join us. We're missing
More or
you.
less pointing the
And
finger
also, there's a little
the,
rack of cards in the back seat, right
state
behind the
fishery.
driver. If you bring that, please.
About,
Thanks. Hi.
I think they only found like 197 salmon, Chinook salmon caught last year. And he says their program is probably the thing that's holding this back. And so we need to work together to do some things that aren't so environmentally correct. And this is what the big one
What they need to do is stop saying that hatchery fish are different from native fish or wild fish because they're the same thing. They come from the same stock. They take the root stock. In fact, 30 years ago, 40 years ago now probably, I was involved deeply in the Northwest Steelheaders. And the Washington Steelheaders invited us up to fish the cowlets on the Lewis River on days that they caught the broodstock. So they actually caught native fish out there. We put them in tanks and in live traps, took them back up and turned them in. I came back in and I told the fisheries guy, why don't you do that? Because they wanted to have stream-specific fish rather than all the fish out of LC hatchery being dispersed through the state. Now they're doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it took them 25, 30 years to do that, but you know, there's absolutely no difference in them. I was up fishing with my cousin on a stuck out. First time I fished in a stuck, a wonderful river. And one day we caught 5 steelhead and 3 of them were wild fish and 2 hatchery fish. And you get this whole thing about the hatchery fish don't fight. That was the hardest fighting 14-pound fish I've ever got. It took me over 20 minutes. I've never fought a steelhead down in my life.
Is
I've
that
caught
right?
hundreds of them. And it's just absurd that they want to do that. There's so many wild fish that are caught and released because they can't keep them because their gills are bleeding or whatever. It's crazy. In fact, I think out in the ocean it's like, everybody I talked to, it's like 8 or 9 wild fish to each hatchery fish that's caught. So the damage that those have on them are being released in the ocean and it's terrible.
So where does that stand now? As far as the comparison of the wild and the hatchery, is that something that's fixed or?
No, it's still a battle that goes on between the purists and the non-purists, I guess you'd call it. But you know, it's kind of fun. I had the business in the 80s called slide-rate drift boats, and we'd go drift boats through the rivers and stuff. So I knew dozens and dozens of guys, and at that time, we started a voluntary releasing of hatchery fish just because, you know, I was catching 50, 60 steelhead in the winter, and allowed to keep 40 the maximum. I only kept about 15 probably. But you know, it was just nice to have a warm, fuzzy feeling to release the hatchery fish, I mean, wild fish. And then they made it mandatory, and it's kind of tough, and the guides would say, well, you know, I've got a client coming in from Wisconsin, they never caught a steelhead.
Hi, Karen, how
They
are you?
catch their first steelhead, and they've got to let it go.
Good to see you again.
Good to
It's a wild
see
fish.
you.
Good chat.
So they should have
Oh,
at least a
how
punch card to help
delightful.
have wild
I'm so-
steelhead or whatever.
Well, that's just
I'm
like
glad
that.
they
They
did
Not
should
here
all this
so for a
stuff.
long
Well,
time.
I'm not gonna breathe in you because
Yeah,
I have
these,
garlic rolls at the place where you're
They
gonna be
study
speaking
with feral
next.
pigs. He has them in cages at his ranch and stuff. He has disabled vets and stuff come. He puts up these private hunts for them. He's also got a big ranch in Texas where they have all this African animals that they got now. And he,
Have a chair
they've
where
I will.
turned
I will.
and put
I'm
a
comfortable.
I think
kibosh on the
probably
deal
this
to
is our
hunt
group.
these. They weren't ibexes.
Too good to be late.
Oh, they are,
Anyway,
we're gonna go
well,
ahead anyway, how's that?
One person
So,
complains.
I think it would be nice if we all
Yeah.
know who each other is
So
for
I know
sure.
that, I know the Star. I mean,
How you doing, Don?
fine, how are you guys? Good to see you both again. Hi, Wendy. How are you?
And you're
Don Corman.
Tom Jones?
I live south of town. You can get that a lot. Oh, sure you are. Like the commercial of Michael Jordan.
He got it 20 minutes ago for me.
He is the original, I mean,
Of course, I
he is the
understand.
real
Yes.
thing.
He probably has a better voice too.
No,
No, I mean,
And
Phil
Chris Jones and his wife.
I've seen you guys around.
Yeah.
Don's
Yeah, we got
classified as
plenty
an
of
SOB,
Oh,
south of the bridge.
Or some other ways too. Can I use it? No, I'll get another one.
well, here, I'll get you one, I may have used
All
it.
right.
Joni Chrysler and her husband, are they not involved in the Republican anything anymore? They used to be really involved.
Joni's been to some of our meetings, some of the county meetings. And I think she ran as a PCP last time around. I don't know if she is again.
You all would be great PCPs if you're not already. Are you?
I'm on the ballot,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're kind of,
Yeah.
You all would be super. We've had a discussion already. I think
Yeah.
these people should be enlisted.
Well, we're not sure, I think the Corgans are.
Yeah, they were.
Mike's had so much physical trouble.
Yeah, he just
I
had
don't
his
know, I think they may
heart
have decided to
surgery.
beg off
Yeah.
being on the ballot again. I think they did. Not that he wouldn't
Corgans
want
took
to.
off several years ago when the Tea Party first started going. They didn't have their motorhome, and they took off in their Jeep
I'm
Command
not sure about that
and
though.
followed them all the way across the country.
Really?
And we're sitting there watching Fox News and think, that looks like, all we could see is half of Carol's head. We just see
And
the
she's
red
got red
part
hair.
and her little dog in her
I was
arms.
gonna say, did they have Milo with them? Yeah.
Milo was in her arms. This is
Milo, who doesn't discriminate, he'll bite Republicans or Democrats.
Well, I thought you might be interested in, and the Joneses are gonna have to hear this again, I guess. I hope only
Well,
once.
that's all right.
But I thought you might be interested in knowing who I am, why I'm running, and then we could talk about some of the issues. And then I may want to hear from you, which is what we were doing earlier, because I like to leave something like this with a list, because I really believe that one of the main things that we should be doing that we're not doing well right now is having folks in Congress listen. So that they actually, novel concept, actually know people and communicate on the issues
Let
with
me interrupt
people.
just one sec too, along the lines of the Corgans. Mike, we have a late arrival.
Well, great,
Steve
come
McKay
on
and
in.
Paul.
Hey.
Wow.
This is delightful.
Yeah.
So there's some places
Steve
down there if you
and
want to head us up.
Paul.
And there's
Holly
coffee.
McKay, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Stephen too.
How do you do? You've got cool hands.
Oh.
Yeah, warm hearts,
It's getting
warm
warm in here.
Hi.
I saw
Don.
some old guy
Thank you for the
downstairs
sign.
and,
Glad I saw you got them up.
down
Excellent.
there, and
He's
he didn't
been
want to come
very
up here.
efficient.
That's
certainly
what
Nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
Even one of
that
the-
would be my
Hey,
husband
you
Earl.
Pound in with us.
How are you guys?
Good to see you.
Hi.
I'm Chris.
I'm Tom.
Tom.
I was going to mention too, Mike and I talked with Mike and Carol. They were going to be here except their, what is it, their grandson's birthday is tonight. They can't very well get away from that.
No, that's an important thing.
So,
Very
they
important.
apologize.
We already told you that.
Although,
Okay.
he
So,
would be just as happy tomorrow with the birthday with them, so. That age, they don't know what day it is anyway.
Oh, yeah, well, I hadn't thought of that, yeah. Right. Anyway.
I have in the back seat of my car the little things that I wanted you all to have. And since Earl doesn't participate in this event, he's apparently guiding people or whatever. I'm just about out, so maybe this will be
That's
little
okay, we
bird
can
here.
share.
Yeah, we already have
We can
one.
share.
so-
Oh, I have one from the meeting anyway, if it's the
Okay.
same, is it the same?
Oh, I've improved it a little bit.
Oh, all right,
over
well, they
time.
can keep it for now
A
anyway.
little
Yeah.
bit.
I'll look at it. We can
So
share.
anyway, my background is this. I have not been in politics before, and that is the asset. So I had experiences early on in my life, one in Kansas and one in Texas, where I had the opportunity to work for a couple of governors. And that's really where I got the bug, even though it was many, 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 many years ago. And I knew at that time, though, that I would like to have some aspect of the political arena be a venue for service to people. And if that ever happened in my life, I wanted to grab it. And it did when my last little one reached the age of 23, and I figure she's on her own. And she's not a little one anymore, even though she still says I may call her my baby. Anyway, my husband and I have 4 kids, and there's one at University of Oregon Law School, and one who went astray back in Boston, one who is well, he actually retired from Intel in Bend, and then he has a business that he's gotten up and running in Bend now that he's retired and sees the good life of the resort that's up there. Jeez. But he's working very, very hard, as those of you who've started a business know, and he's working hard. So I shouldn't make light of it, or I'd be in bad trouble with him. And then another daughter who was in Bend and was really victim of the situation that we have as far as jobs are concerned. And she had to leave the state to get a job in the area where she wanted to work, which was community-style banks and credit unions. So we miss her a whole lot.
Out of curiosity, where'd you wind up?
She's in Redlands, California.
Oh, okay.
It's a nice.
There are some jobs down there, I guess.
Yeah, it's not many, but
Yeah, yeah.
not many.
I know people who've lived in that area.
So anyway, we decided when I retired, which was the 31st of December, over a year ago now, that I wanted to just do this. And so I right away went to see, I'm sure you know these people, Alan Alley and Chris Dudley and Scott Brun, who had run for this seat last time around. I thought was a superb candidate. And I said, if you guys are interested, you know, in this position, I want to support you. And they said, no, not this go round. So I said, well, I'll put my name in the hopper because we want some strong opposition for Kurt Schrader. Oh, and that reminds me, this gentleman is our Democrat follower. So,
Hi, yes. Sorry. Felt everybody looking at me all this.
Jeff and I are well acquainted now. His job, I assume, is to catch my inconsistencies, right? And the stupid little things that I say along the way.
It's more just reporting back kind of your stances and things like that.
Okay. Because I said
Preliminary
I
stuff.
said one 2 days ago that I thought, man, when you take that out of context, that'll be a doozy.
Oh no. I have to guess which one that is now. I'll share.
Work hard to take it down.
And knowing Jeff, he'd probably ask me now, which one were you talking about?
We'll have a lot of time this weekend to talk. So.
Yeah. So, at any rate, this is the time in my life to do this, and without those folks in the race, I felt like there needed to be really strong leadership there at the helm to make this a good race, and with the balance the way it is right now in the district as a whole, at 52%, 48% Democrat, Republican, it's different than what Scott had the last go-round, and I think there's a good air about making this
Karen,
happen.
can you explain that a little bit
Yeah,
further?
Yeah, when you add just the Republicans and the Democrats together, not counting the unaffiliateds and independents, it's a 52% Democrat, 48% Republican balance. Does that make sense?
In the district?
In the district.
And how is that different than what it was before?
It was about 2 points, maybe 3% or something.
There's a higher difference.
Yes,
More for the...
more for the Democrat.
How did that happen?
In the redistricting, you're going to laugh when I say this, a portion of Multnomah County and a portion of Corvallis were both removed from CD5.
What, were they drunk when they did that? I mean, they took Yachats and put it down in, you know, for the state, down south. so I can't imagine how they could have done that in a
For
congressional
state
district.
representative, where if
Yeah.
you're below the, what is it, Star Creek Road or whatever?
Yeah, they just took us out of Lincoln County
You have a
and put us
different
down into,
representative than the whole rest of the
another
county,
Yeah.
for the state, for the
So,
state.
but that's
You
the state.
guys would have a
But, so I
different
can't
representative
imagine
than
a
we would.
congressional district.
No, we're
South
down
It's
there.
bizarre. Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, Mike and Carol.
Well, if it works
Yeah,
to our
Mark and Carol
advantage,
should.
Yes.
then that's good.
Anyway.
And now
Sorry.
this is the second best, most favorable toward Republicans district in Oregon.
Really?
Greg Walden's, of course, is number one, and there's
Right.
majority Republican, but
Right.
this is next.
Wow.
Now, what about the independents? Do you know what the
Hallelujah.
percentage of independents is?
I happen to have it.
Because I would think that in this particular election, that there would be a great deal of focus on the independents.
Well, yeah, that's.
There needs to
that's-
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll get the Republicans, and
Yeah, you'll
you
get
gotta
the
get
Republicans,
you gotta
and
get
if
all
you
the
can pull in,
Democrats,
if you can pull
or
in
all
the independents.
because you won't get the
Right.
Democrats at all.
Well, a little bit. You know, I've got to tell you, it's kind of interesting. I had just a very small group of women. In fact, I said this morning on Bill Post's show.
Okay.
And my husband said later, maybe I shouldn't have been quite so sharing, but it's noted anyway now. But I had just a small group of people who are naming themselves Democrats for Karen.
Oh, okay.
And I said to
Yeah.
them, why?
Yeah.
Why? Because I know it's not about my positions. And they said, because we're desperate for integrity and a voice of reason.
I know.
Okay.
And I thought, well, that's people.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not party.
An element of principle
Usually
and
a small
independence too, as opposed to what has been the previous 2 terms in Washington from this district.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe there'll be a little bit of that
Do
Democrat.
you remember what the count was on Scott's contest?
He lost by about, he lost by about 9%, I think.
Was it that
I
big?
recall, yeah.
You know what? I need to email this to all of you because I have here those data and then the
Okay.
percentages.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was my recollection.
Yeah.
About 8 or 9, 8.5, 9%.
In that little sack behind the behind the driver's seat that I wanted my husband to bring up, I have a little sign-up sheet for your emails and stuff. And you know what? I can just use this, and I'll email that to you. That'd be the best, so you've got it as a
You want that?
reference.
You want that now, or?
Your email? Yeah, let me just pass this around,
Oh, okay.
and then.
But that's about what it was. I have pretty clear recollection.
Materials in the car, so he'll go get it.
It was
Oh.
8 to 9%.
You know where Earl is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll tell him to get your stuff.
Yeah, right behind the driver's side.
Tell him to be
Thank you.
effective.
About time he earns his keep, right?
You know.
You can get our emails anyway.
Yeah.
You already have mine.
I do indeed.
Yeah, right.
Don the
Probably in
sign
the
man.
record.
Oh,
And you
goodness.
notice we did get a few of them up too, including one in Stephen Polly's yard,
Yours is in our yard.
down the road,
So,
yeah.
Small world.
And Mike and Carol's house just up the road.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you all for that. And we've got more signs that you can take with you and
Got
populate
that
the
all
area.
taken care of.
You're wonderful. Thank you.
Anyway, go ahead, we digress.
No,
We're
that's
going.
perfectly fine.
There we go.
So anyway, this makes it, I think, a very good time to have good representation from the Republican Party for really going full bore on it.
Great.
And so that's why I'm in the race. So as I look over what my positions are, if you see the 5 points that are on the front of that little handout there, that's really what they are. The prosperity for Oregonians is kind of like the umbrella topic with all of the others feeding into it. Because until we have our national debt under control, we learn how to keep within our budget and learn how to cut down on these horrid federal regulations, it's not going to accomplish the overriding issue anyway. So that's why I've set it up that way. And I put the point there specifically about dignity for our seniors and their care, because I saw in CD1, Congressional District 1 with Bonamici and Rob Cornelis, that most unfortunate discussion about how Rob was just wanting to, what was it, throw Granny off the cliff and all that stuff. And that is so far from reality in terms of how the Republicans want to approach this, and certainly how I want to approach all of that about Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and so on. So I put it there just so it would be a constant reminder that is not something to worry about with Republican representation at all. So when I look at the issues in Oregon, I've been, or within this area on the coast, I think about some things that I heard the last time I was here, and it's interesting because as I heard them here, I started hearing them in other places within the district. There he is! Yay!
Sorry.
That's great. Except the whole little sack isn't here, but that's okay. We'll make do.
You can go back to the bar now.
But at any rate, I would hear things like, for instance, about some of the farmers. Now, you've got some things in this ditch that we need to have removed from that ditch. And then, who knows, here it is, you're wonderful. You don't have to sign up that you're going to do whatever.
No,
but if you wish
but
to.
you can.
I have an extra pen too.
But if she says that, don't even listen to her.
But this ditch has something in it now that we have to take out, and then however many days later after the work is done, oh, no, I'm sorry, you need to put that back. And so after days and days and days and days of labor and expense and cost, the regulations were confusing. And now I'm hearing that throughout the district with farmers. It's just something that is a part of the landscape. I'm also now hearing it out of state. And if any of you saw the Stossel program on regulation, it was
15 times.
Yeah.
it's a great program, and I think exposes a lot of what our problems are. And then when I was here, I heard about problems with easements because of watersheds, and where a farmer might have half of his farm removed and designated half as an easement, because once there's a little bit of trickling water up there that makes this a watershed. Well now, and we were talking earlier about what has driven many people in the Clackamas County where I live into the Tea Party or other, really, I'm awake kinds of activities. I don't like what's happening, and they have joined the front for all of this. It has been because of this very point, where one person in Lake Oswego, for example, had wanted to put a patio and trampoline out in the backyard. And it seemed perfectly normal, except they had to get a permit for the patio, for the little, what do you call it? Not patio.
Deck.
Thank you, thank you. And so they said, you say deck, thank you. And so that permit was denied. And the reason for it was because there was a sewer that was running in their back alley. And that, of course, made it a watershed. So you're hearing that all over the state, too. And it stems from that Agenda 21, which is perpetuated from the federal level. And we all suffer the consequences of that. And then I think maybe someone in this room would sense the feeling of anger about the federal government taking and keeping natural resources of the state. And that is now finally being understood, I feel, in the urban areas as well. And that's an important aspect of my visit, and which was early on, and its repercussions. And then we know about the fishermen who think they can fish here, but it turns out the federal regulations really meant, no, you need to fish there. So it's, if you fish here, you'll be fined, but you don't know that this is the spot. So whether it is talking about where you can fish, or where you can cut trees, or where you can do whatever, those issues seem to be just perpetuated throughout the district too. So those kinds of things are the questions that I have that say, why have we let this happen? And most of those things are, I think, a result of something that was going on or not going on properly with the feds, and then ends up affecting us in ways that affect our very livelihoods. And so those kinds of things are worrisome. Now, if we just look to the federal level for a moment, I question, when I think about the debt and deficit That's what I'm really meaning there by fiscal responsibility on that card. I think about how we were the #1 creditor nation in the world in 1982. That's pretty significant. 30 years later, we're the #1 debtor nation in the world. And we let that happen very quickly. It deteriorated with the votes of some folks that we know for stimulus package, for cap and trade, for Obamacare, for the big picture items that have a devastating impact on our debt and deficit. So as I think about what needs to be done, well, first, I mean, it seems like an easy lesson, spend within our means, but I know it's going to be hard, and I know it's going to take some people who are from both sides are going to have to be very willing to cooperate in order to make that happen. I'm not one to believe that a balanced budget amendment is going to happen. I mean, our last amendment to the Constitution took 200 years. So it won't happen, if it does at all, in time to get us on track now. But we need to behave that way, as if it were guiding our every move right now. And if we could just get that lesson instilled, it would start to have effects on our overall debt, obviously, with the interest on our debt now, last year, taking 6% of our overall budget. Come and join us over here.
This is
We've
Shirley
got-
and Gordon.
Hi, glad to meet you. I'm Karen.
I'm Karen.
Hi.
Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
We knew you were coming.
Well, good.
Good cold.
Glad you called.
So I've been ranting and raving for a little bit, and then we're gonna do the listening part of this and hear from you. So anyway, here we are with last year 6% of our debt, of our budget, federal budget, going for the interest on our loans, for which we have to borrow more money in order to pay that interest. It's just so incredibly bizarre. And that alone, if we can start digging away at that debt and cutting those interest payments, then of course it would help us in terms of the overall spending budget. Well, how in the world would one do that? That's where clearly we need some big swaths taken. And they're going to need to be a lot of big swaths in order to make them add up to the $1 trillion that we need annually, right? So there are things that I'm sure you have in mind, that I have in mind, that when we work on them together, I think we could make some real progress. One of them for me is the Department of Education. Because as I look over what their duties are and what their funding is and the results they have achieved, it's absolutely appalling.
Lack thereof.
Lack thereof. Yeah, think about the situation, for instance, with No Child Left Behind. And with the results being, we have fewer people graduating from high school. We have lower test scores. That hasn't been the results that were outlined as the goals, right? So, yeah. And to me, it is so incredible. Now, here I am, a higher ed person, saying this and absolutely believing this. K through 12 or pre-K through 12 are critical importance for our future. Their education, and education is local, and so let's not control it at the federal level. It's just obvious to me. And so if we would cut that, well, there would be $63 or so million.
That was a strong point that Ron Mauer was making when he was running for superintendent of public instruction a couple of years ago, and lost by just a few hundred votes in a nonpartisan election. He felt strongly about that too.
Mm-hmm.
It was time to consider cutting the apron strings of the federal stream.
Well, and because it takes from its budget money and then says, oh, well, we're going to give this to the next level, and then they take their part, and education is local. And if any one of us don't believe that, we just need to talk to teachers more and principals.
Part of No Child Left Behind was also to have a way to score the teachers.
Yep.
Because they could go into an area where test scores were low, and they'd say, well, these kids are achieving higher than average here, but lower in English, and so they have a way to get rid of some of the coffee drinkers. And we've all had
Yeah.
coffee drinkers as teachers, and we've had ones that are really good teachers. And
Yep.
we can all name them, but that was one of the purposes too. I don't know if it achieved that either, but.
I would say no. And I would say if any of you know principals or administrators in pre-K through 12, they know who the slackers are.
My daughter is a
Can't get
teacher,
rid of them.
actually in the Tri-Cities area of Washington. But when No Child Left Behind came into play, she said what happened was they spent too much time testing the children.
Oh, amen.
And not enough time teaching the children.
No,
And so it's like whatever they put in place to help the children was not helping the children.
Mm-hmm.
It was just to get these statistics, that's a hard word for me to say, statistics,
Mhm.
okay? To see where the kids were at. Well, they're not any further than they were before because all they do is spend all this time testing
Yeah.
and not enough time teaching.
For a while, there was a real push from the feds for there to be Baldridge used. You're familiar with Baldridge? They're the U.S. Senate that endorses it. Efforts for quality control in the classroom in order to bring those scores up. And I am a Baldridge investigator, which is someone that has been appointed to help businesses go through the Baldridge process and to work up for quality that they maybe did not have before. For businesses that are interested in that process, it's absolutely fabulous. For education, it is horrid. And I remember talking to some teachers who were having to do the same thing, just like the emphasis on the scores, but now it was emphasis on process in order to try to get those scores up. And they would say to me, I just want to be left alone by the federal government. Baldridge is not for me. But I want to be left alone by the federal government is the same thing that I hear from citizens in general, and particularly from people in business.
Well, the states' rights, the federal government really isn't supposed to be involved in the public school system.
That's right.
Each and every state is supposed to have its own curriculum and its own guidelines.
Yep.
And each and every county and stuff is supposed to have its. But they're beholden to the federal government in order to get funding, which they should outright get anyway without having to go to the federal government. Because we pay taxes for that funding. It shouldn't go to the federal government. They get distributed back to us. It should be given directly to us.
You bet.
And
You
they
bet.
should be, the states have been given away all their rights because they got their hand out.
Yep.
And they gotta learn to put the hand back in the pocket and say, we
Realize they're better off in the long run doing it themselves.
gotta keep our money instead of sending it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
When
And
I-
then there's more of it.
Exactly.
When I was in school, high school, I graduated from high school in 1968. I went through the Los Angeles City Schools. I took it in high school, which was 3 years there, 3 years of junior high and 3 years of high school, at least in the city schools. I took a total of 2 tests in 3 years. And they were just basically for classification as much as anything else. There was you did some preparatory work for the SATs and stuff if you were college material, but as far as testing, that was
Wow, that's
you were
interesting.
taught. You were taught. You weren't processed for tests.
Yeah.
It was that simple.
Processed is the word.
And that's
Yeah.
what it amounted to. That's
Yeah.
what it amounts to now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I
Karen?
think I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
but they're totally dumbing down our children.
No.
Mhm.
No
And
Child Left
we-
Behind, that's exactly what it does.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we were in Washington DC, and we went to, we were at Kennedy's gravesite, and we